All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. I'm Stephen Burnett with Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi, and with me is Catherine Mansell, certified Q grader and director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, Louisiana. Catherine, what is going on today?
Today's a tasting day. I'm getting ready for the next coffee pastry pairing that we have at the shop, and I'm tasting our Ethiopia Kimbata, the Adame, Dorado Bombay, and those three are in the run of which one I'm going to use for the first pairing, which is always a fruit tart. So seeing which one's going to work out the best this week so we can have a really tasty fruit tart. What are you drinking?
This little thing right here. No, I made myself a Hornet. It's a local shop here in Jackson that introduced me to this. It is, and it's kind of surprising, but trust me, it's good. It is orange juice, a shot of espresso, iced drink with 20 milliliters of caramel syrup. And the caramel ties it all together. It's surprisingly good, very refreshing. You've got the orange juice acidity, kind of the citric acid, and the espresso. It goes. Yeah. If you don't think it works, you should definitely try one because it is so good.
I've got to. I would never think to put orange juice in coffee ever.
This is a shop here. It's called Tamper in Madison, right just north of Jackson.
Yeah.
And you walk in and they know what they're doing. So when you see this on the menu, you're like, they probably know what they're doing. And so you try it.
Right.
And after I did that, I was like, how do you make this drink? Because I'm going to make it at home. And my wife loves it. And so I make a couple of them every day at this point. And vitamin C, you got to have the vitamin C.
Yeah.
So it's healthy. It's a healthy espresso drink. The syrup, maybe not so much, but they're quite good. But in addition to talking about random recipes, and I'll actually put that recipe in the show notes as well for you guys. In addition to that, we set aside 10 minutes every week to field questions from home coffee roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and as just demonstrated, enjoying coffee. You can send your questions to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com to get a nice shout out from us in an upcoming episode, and of course, to get your question answered. As best we can, anyway. Now here's one we got from a listener, Kip, who writes, "Hello, loving the new pod. Keep up the good work." Thanks, Kip. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. Yeah. I've been roasting for a few years now on my Fresh Roast 800, and I found that I really enjoy natural and honey processed beans. These tend to have a lot of chaff, though, sometimes enough that it clogs up the chaff collector at the top. So my question is, if you have tips on roasting coffee that produces a lot of chaff like these. Thanks again and cheers. Kip F. All right, Kip, thank you so much. I appreciate the question.
Yeah.
Chaffy coffees, Catherine. What do we say about chaffy coffees?
Well, I love them, but chaff does turn into an issue that you have to try to deal with. Especially in an air roaster or the 540, the 800 fresh roast, that chaff collector can only hold so much. Once it's clogged, the temperature in the chamber goes up, and it can go up really fast. So I don't know if Kip has an extension tube or not, but as I am roasting a natural or a honey process, in my fresh roast, I find that I don't have to make it as hot because it's going to get hot sort of on its own. So normally when I'm roasting, say I'm doing a medium roast for a wash process, I'm slowly lowering the fan, and this is with the extension tube. I'm slowly lowering the fan, leaving the power alone. And a lot of times I can get the fan down all the way to 4. But when I'm roasting a natural process or a honey process, I don't have to get the fan that low because it's going to start getting pretty warm and sort of take over on its own. So I'll get the fan maybe down to 6 and we'll still have the total roast time be about 8 minutes or 8.5. But because it's already so hot by the time we get pretty close to first crack, I don't have to do as much with a natural or a wash process. Now, on the other hand, if you happen to randomly have extra chaff collectors, I have mid-roast sort of switched them out really quick. I don't know if that would be something that that would be what you should do every time, but every now and again, I've switched it out really quick just to see what it would work.
Of chaff when you do that.
Oh yeah, chaff is always everywhere. It's like Logan's Roadhouse in this place. There's chaff everywhere. By the end of the day, there are vacuums everywhere. Everybody's got handhelds. There's chaff everywhere. Anyway.
That's so funny. No, and that is hilarious. Logan's Roadhouse. If those of you who have not had the pleasure, they have peanuts. Like you shell them at the table. That's your little appetizer, and so you just throw them on the floor. And yeah totally. A clean roasting area. A clean roasting area is different than like a clean house. Like there's gonna be chaff in the corner, just not piles of chaff. That's a clean roasting area.
Right.
That's awesome. Now with the fresh roast in particular, chaff, like people will email us and say, hey, almost like we're paying less for the non-dechaffified coffee. That kind of thing. Like we're getting low quality stuff, or we're maybe adding chaff to it later or something. And that's not how it works at all. Some coffees are just chaffier than others, and naturals and honeys tend to be more chaffy than all the rest. But I think chaff management is an actual concern. Like it's an annoyance. It's an actual concern though, especially to avoid chaff fires. But I will say to your point about the fresh roast lid. That's something. If people are roasting natural or honey coffees into that dark roast territory, it really can get away from you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
You can shoot well past your, especially if you're using the internal cooler, you can shoot well past your desired roast level because of the chaff clogging up the top of the deal. Fresh Roast says that you can reduce your charge weight, your initial roast as well, which makes sense. Less coffee, less chaff, right? But we don't always want to do that. Sometimes we're a little more rebellious than all that. What I did, just a little bit. What I did is I got one of those 3-inch dryer vent hoses, the flexible aluminum ones, and just ran it out the window. And so I stuck it up. I got rid of the lid entirely, just put it on a shelf, collect dust, put the vent over my fresh roast, right out the window. Most of the chaff. Some chaff still got out. Most of the chaff and most of the smoke went out the window, and your neighbors think you're crazy, but it works pretty well too. So that's another option. It does change the way you roast. So these are all trade-offs. It does change the actual roast. The fan's a little more, has less resistance, so the fan's more likely to blow beans out the tube too. So you got to watch that. I think that the chaffiness on some of these coffees, some of them are quite ridiculous. You're like, my goodness, this thing is clogging up. In the Gene Cafe, that little windshield wiper thing that's like clearing the chaff. Sometimes it is doing all it can, and it's still a big chunk of chaff around it. So but that is just part of the fun. But anyway,
so
Kip, that's something. But
I was going to say, so you would either lower your initial charge weight, so you wouldn't have a lot of chaff, or you could sort of, instead of increasing the heat so much, not increase the heat as much and let the beans sort of take off on their own.
Right. Yeah. Expecting that it's going to ramp up at the end. I think that's exactly right. Yeah. And with all this stuff, like these questions that we answer, I feel like so many of the answers are, here are 7 ways of handling this problem. They're all radically different, and no, they don't work together. And so it's a matter of dancing with all these trade-offs and figuring out, what do I want to get out of this? Because with my solution, with the tube out the window, like you don't have the resistance, so the heat doesn't build as much in the chamber. You're blowing all the hot air out. Like you think of that lid's got the metal piece that can kind of reflect some of that heat back in. So now you've got to ramp your heat up to compensate. So there's all these things to compensate with. I think straight up clogging it's not great. I've seen people. Wait a minute. They sell the guy that makes the Razzo tube, the guy that makes the Razzo extension tube, not the OE. He sells a chaff collector extension. Have you seen this?
Oh wow.
It's a piece of metal mesh that you insert between the chaff collector and the lid. This is technical. If you don't have a fresh roast, this is completely useless. But anyway, it's right there, and it extends it so it can't clog as easily. And it's got another element to it as well. I forget, but they literally have made an aftermarket piece you can buy to help that. So you check out Razzo's page on Etsy. He's got a little extension thing there. So there you have. That's our answer, Kip. We hope this is helpful. I'm glad you're enjoying these naturals and honeys. They're close to my heart too. So we'll figure that clog situation out. But all that to say, as many hacks as we just threw out, we threw out, 4 or 5 hacks, maybe 10. There's still more hacks out there. There's still more ways of handling and thinking about this problem, I'm sure, right? So, so of course. So we left something out. Give us your chaff handling hacks. Let us know how you're doing it, because that's one thing I love about this is seeing all the different ways people can modify their machines or modify their method. There's a guy that I talked to the other day. I think I've mentioned this before, but he opens his Beemore. He opens the Beemore up, takes the tray out, and it has a leaf blower. And he just blows he cools the coffee up with the leaf blower. Chaff goes all over his garage, but that's what he just cleans it up with the leaf blower. So there are so many ways. Put them in the comments. Let us know. It helps us, helps people find us, along with the liking and the subscribing and the sharing and all those things that you do to help us grow the pod. We really appreciate that and couldn't do it without you. We also want to thank our audio video wizard Josh Sampmeyer and our graphic designer Jatavian Walker for all they do to make the show possible, make it work. Catherine, thank you for all you do, your wisdom and the knowledge that you share on the show. It is great, and we couldn't do it without you. But yeah, remember to send your questions about coffee in general or coffee roasting in particular to questions@riypod.com. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
Happy roasting. You're pretty great too, Steven.
Oh, I wasn't fishing. I love it.